Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top five are correct, and then make predictions for next week's top five. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted that number one would be Annabelle Creation, number two would be The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature, number three would be The Dark Tower, number four would be Dunkirk, and number five would be The Emoji Movie. And I only got 2 out of 5 of my predictions right, which is okay after last week's performance of guessing, but still, I need to work on this. I need to work on my prediction game once again on this show. So let's go on to number one, which was the obvious Annabelle Creation. It made $35 million this weekend, earning the top spot, which was very obvious because The Dark Tower didn't make as much money as a lot of people might have thought it would have. This is only on a budget of $15 million, so it has already doubled that budget. It is doing very well, and on the worldwide chart, it is already at $71 million. That is not a very bad opening, obviously. This is very good. As far as the last Annabelle film, this is definitely lower than that, $2 million less of an opening, to be exact. And Annabelle also had like a 55-something% drop on its second weekend. So seeing how this movie holds up on its second weekend will be interesting to say the least. But still, this is a very good opening, especially for this kind of low-budget horror film. But usually low-budget horror films, unless they're wished upon, do very well anyway. So this is no surprise. Number two, however, is Dunkirk. Still holding out. I thought for sure the Nut Job would take that spot. It did not. It made $11 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $153 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $363 million. Only 37 away to getting $400 million. I'm thinking that maybe it'll get to $500 million worldwide before it leaves. It's had a great past couple weeks, almost a month of it being out, and it's still like in the top 2. So that is pretty great. And even like The Dark Tower got number 1 and Dunkirk was number 2, and it's still number 2 now. It's honestly kind of impressive how well it's holding at the box office. So way to go, Nolan. Number 3, however, is The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature. Now, the first Nut Job movie opened with $19 million. This is definitely a drop. It made $8 million on its opening weekend, and this is an animated film with a budget of $40 million. It hasn't gotten anything worldwide as far as Box Office Mojo or the numbers are saying right now. So we're looking at another flop for The Nut Job 2 unless it opens in other places and becomes a huge hit. Maybe that'll be the case, but even then, the first Nut Job movie wasn't that big of a success to begin with. So why they even decided to make this 3 years later is kind of a shock to me anyway. So I don't think this movie's going to do very well in the next coming weeks. Number 4 is The Dark Tower. I thought for sure maybe it could get in the top 3 once again. Nah, it had a really big drop this weekend with $7 million, adding to a domestic total of $34 million. And on the worldwide chart, that is not helping it either. It is only at $53 million worldwide. It hasn't crossed its $60 million budget yet. Probably won't be able to double it unless it opens up in another place and gets a lot of money like right now or anything like that. But I don't know if it'll even be that popular, to be honest, because it wasn't that popular here, and so far worldwide in its 2 weeks, it hasn't really done much. So who really knows at this point? Number 5, however, is The Emoji Movie, which is actually still doing pretty well for itself, making $6.6 million this weekend, earning a $63 million domestic total, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $97 million, only $3 million away from doubling its $50 million budget. A lot of people, tried to say, I'm not going to point fingers or say names, but a lot of people tried to say like, oh, it's going to flop so hard, it's only going to make like $8 million at the box office, and look at it go. Even if it was critically panned, it's still a kids movie that kids will want to see because they're being stupidly pandered to, and dumb parents will let their kids see this movie, even though this movie's a masterpiece anyway, A++. Moving on to number 6, which is Girls Trip, making $6.5 million, and on the domestic total, it has $97 million. Now, it is so close to $100 million domestically, but on the worldwide chart, it's already surpassed that with $105 million, which is so good for this film. I thought for sure that it wasn't going to make this much money once again, but it surprised me. It surprised a lot of people from the actual film itself being really funny. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm actually looking forward to checking it out at some point. And I'm pretty sure next week it'll probably get to 100 million domestically. Like, that's pretty obvious. But the fact that it already got there worldwide is pretty impressive. Number 7 is Spider-Man Homecoming, making $6.1 million this weekend. It's a really tight spot for the 5, 6, and 7 slot. It made $306 million domestically at this point, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $702 million. Very good for this film being able to cross that $700 million worldwide point. I'm pretty sure it's also starting to die down a little bit, so I can't say that it's going to get to like 800 million before it leaves the top 10. I'm pretty sure it's not going to do that at this point. And also, $1 billion isn't really that realistic for a film like this, since there is a huge Spider-Man fatigue going on. And plus, it's very rare that we even get a solo superhero film that breaks like a billion worldwide. I'm not sure. I can't really think of one at the top of my head that's done that unless it's the Avengers. So Spider-Man Homecoming did pretty well considering what kind of film it is, the Spider-Man fatigue, and also a solo superhero film that isn't a big team up. Number 8 is Kidnap. Still hanging on for dear life. It was at number 5 last weekend, but it dropped to number 8, making $5 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $19 million. Almost across that $20 million budget, which actually isn't too bad. And I think I'm trying to make it sound like less of a success than it actually is. It's actually not doing terribly. Could it have done better? Probably, but I don't think they really spent too much on marketing this film since they pushed it back for so long. So I'm pretty sure that this movie's still doing okay, even if it isn't doubling its budget. Moving on to number 9 is The Glass Castle. I saw a couple reviews of this, but I still don't really know what the plot is. I don't really know a lot of what it's about, but it made $4.8 million this weekend, and I don't know what its budget is. Good job, Glass Castle. And finally, number 10, Atomic Blonde. Before exiting the top 10, did it double its budget? Well, let's see. It made $4.5 million domestically, adding to a domestic total of 42. But on the worldwide chart, there it is. It made $61 million, which is $1 million over the doubling point of 60 million. So technically, Atomic Blonde did pretty well. It was a success. So they could make a sequel if they wanted to, as far as people actually showing up. I'm not so sure with the kind of numbers they have how many people would come back, but I think they could, the fact that they doubled its budget like that, and it does have a pretty good domestic return as well with $42 million. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. I'm going to go number 1, The Hitman's Bodyguard. I think the combination of Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, and also the trailers, I think will get a lot of people in. And then I think number 2 will be Annabelle Creation. I think even though that might have a really big drop, I think it'll be enough to like secure the number 2 spot, especially since it's a better movie than Annabelle. Then I'm going to say number 3 is Logan Lucky. It looks like one of those movies that looks really good, but no one really goes out to see. And then I'm going to put number 4, Dunkirk, and number 5, The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature, as the summer season starts to die down, since this is definitely August. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave it in the comments below, and if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.